Hey, okay. Now I'm back. Okay, again. So for number two, what makes a good foreign language teacher? So the first we talk about qualifications, and then we talk about passion, right? And I talk about my first Japanese teacher. She's a disabled person, okay? And to tell you the truth, she's never graduated from any college or school of education. Yeah, but she's a really good teacher. Why? That's it, her passion that's motivates and inspires people to learn Japanese language, a culture. Yeah, so it comes to language teaching. I'm not sure about other subjects, but for language teaching, you do need passion. As long as you are a foreigner, okay? As long as you have good knowledge, passion can help you a lot. Okay, so here we talk about because Mikiko San, my Japanese teacher, she already they speak about Japanese, so is the language proficiency is not a problem. Language proficiency is not a problem, but here's about teaching skill and teaching knowledge. She's she kind of started her teaching career from zero, and from zero to hero. Okay, she's one of the most renowned teachers in the city. Until she's passed away in the accident in 2014. Okay, yes, that's really sad. So passion, you can talk about passion. We have skill, qualification, but passion. And when it comes to passion, I talked about my Japanese teacher. That's very, moving story, very touching story. You can use some grammar for this, okay? And last but not least, as long as language teaching is concerned, you can't teach people to speak a language if you don't speak the language very often, and if you not really people person, which means you don't really enjoy interacting with people. How could you inspire people to interact with people? You can communicate with people. I don't say interact because normally they say interact. Okay? That's very weird. Okay, so I guess in a saying, you must be less of an introverted person and more of an extroverted person, an extrovert. In order to teach languages, you need to open up and talk to people. That's exactly the way how you can inspire people to converse. Okay, so I have very good term for you guys. A people person. I'm not a student, right? Okay. So, Han, can you hear me? Hello, Han, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear your voice.
Okay. So for number two, I mentioned two factors. Okay. First of all, so we said with the examiner asks you what makes a good foreign language teacher, and you talk about factors like what factor? Yeah. So you ask me what factor makes a foreign language teacher a good one. And first of all, I think you absolutely need to be well qualified. Well qualified means you need to have good pronunciation, good vocabulary, good resource, and good grasp of grammar. Of course, basically, if you are already a native speaker of the language, you need something like that teaching skill, teaching knowledge. Okay, so after this, as a teacher, you need good teaching knowledge and good teaching skills. But I will open up a but here, right? Because actually there are people who, most of them are foreigners, native speaker of the language, and they never graduate from any pedagogy institution, okay, any school of education. But they have the passion to inspire people, to motivate people to learn. And a very good example is my Japanese teachers, Michiko-san, okay, a disabled person. For your information, she a dietitian, and her previous jobs has nothing to do with language teaching. But then when she traveled to Vietnam, and she has nothing to. Actually, she couldn't find a job in her her field. But then she switched to language teaching, and then she took up a job. She felt interested in the job. Then she started a career in studying language teaching, and she did it amazingly good. I mean, it was amazingly well. You say well, but okay. Now, this is about my teachers, my German teachers, which is a typical example of how passion can help you, to be a good teacher. Even you don't have the education qualification. Okay. Now, I will ask Bao to answer the question in order to make the question more interesting. Okay. So Bao, what makes a good foreign language teacher?
Well, I believe that a good foreign language teacher firstly needs to have a high qualification or certificate in teaching English, of course, or teaching languages, of course. And they're also the person who can give inspiration for their students, and they comprehend the orientation of each student in every particular, because every student will have their own pathway in life, and knowing that they can have a good way to develop their skills in the languages. For example, if they're just they want to follow the way of business, and they don't need to use so much complicated English or languages, they don't need to study so much. But if they want to follow the path of becoming a teacher or researching languages, then they need to learn more.
Could you give me more specific example of such teachers?
At my school, many students tend to take classes for IELTS, and most of them, they don't need to get a band 9 or 8, because they know their limitations, and they also know that that high band doesn't give them more opportunity in their own field. So the teachers don't show any obligation to make them study harder and harder for English. Instead, they will focus more on the subject that really.
So what kind of attributes of the teachers can you mention here?
I mean, teacher will know what pathway is the most appropriate for that
what
student.
What do you mean by pathway?
If you
Thank you. That's very weak arguments. Yeah. So they need you to be more specific, and you need to put your message across clearly. Yeah. Don't worry about ideas. Okay. Don't worry about right and wrong. But when you ask something, you need to clarify that concept definition. Just that. Yeah. If we ask you something when we want to know more. So number 2. Okay. Let's summarize. Qualifications. Very easy, right? Now speaking of ideas, we have qualifications and then passion. Okay. Qualifications involve something like technical knowledge and technical skill. Yeah. And most importantly, proficiency. Okay. Your proficiencies of the language. Proficiency, right? We talk about proficiencies here. So pedagogy and proficiency. Okay. proficiency. Don't say proficiency. Cái này sensi là proficiency. Okay, that's something, yeah, a different accent, right? That's very nice. Although I think, when I read the video and YouTube will fail to recognize, the accent. Okay, now we move to number 3. Look at number 3 for me. The examiner asks you, do you think grammar is important when learning foreign languages? Hey Han, I think you are a foreign language teacher, so could you tell me your opinion regarding number 3? Do you think grammar is important when learning foreign languages? It's a bit difficult for you, right? To use the microphone here. Zoom. Are you still there? Oh, you're still there, but you might not be able to use your microphone. Don't worry. So we jump to number 3. Do you think it's important to be grammar is important when learning languages?
Teacher, I cannot see the word clearly.
You can see the word clearly. Now I repeat the question. Do you think grammar is important when learning a foreign language? Yeah. This is an opinion question. Do you think grammar is important when learning a foreign language?
I think this is a basic or the core when we want to learn any language, but not the most important part that affects our ability to speak or communicate.
Okay, example.
For example, for the people in Japan or whatever, can communicate and talk with the foreigner and sell a lot of products without knowing any grammatical points.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of, like commoners, okay? Ordinary people who just want to communicate and push their message across, right? They don't really grasp or master grammar rules. Grammatical, basics. They have some grammatical basic knowledge, right? But it's not about, advanced grammatical structures. But they can still, be really communicative. That's the point, right? That's your example is quite good. Okay, we talk about people who are tour guides who are just, like that's a grocer or a fruit seller, okay, a street vendor. We simply say, I know. When people want to communicate, they just need a smattering of, the language. We talk about a smattering, smattering, right? Một chút sơ sơ. Smattering is a very good word for you. A smattering. A smattering. Can you see the board? Smattering. Oh my God! I think I have to change. Now, this color. I need to use the black pen, the black marker. Smattering. Oh, yeah. A smattering of when you just need a smattering of the language to communicate simple ideas, and like you a fruit sellers, a street vendors, then why do you have to master grammar? It's more importantly, right? If grammar doesn't get in the way of your message, the way of the process of your putting across the message, it doesn't prevent you from expressing yourself, then you don't need to learn grammar. If you don't really want to get a degree, you go to Australia, for example, to get a degree, then that our base for 7 in academic module, then why bother? Why bother? Tại sao phải? Why bother is a good phrase. Why bother? You can use why bother. Okay, I think I had to prevent the virus. Okay, why bother? Okay, learn too much grammar. No, it doesn't make sense, right? But yes, except when you don't want to get you want to do a degree, a master's degree in Australia, in Perth, in university like Adelaide University, then you absolutely need grammar for writing, for academic writing. And for the rest, for the remaining cases, for the remaining time, you don't need. Mind you, for some languages, even with basic conversation, like Japanese language, because grammar, in Japanese language grammar, okay, has a lot to do with, okay, a lot to do with what? Communication. That you do need to learn grammar, even you just use basic Japanese language. Like in Japanese language, right? If somebody has done a favor to you, okay, and you want to say thank you, you can't use the present tense, which is arigatou gozaimasu, but you have to use the past tense. Hey, arigatou gozaimashita. And if you use the wrong tense, people will be very annoyed and upset. Even just say thank you, very basic one. But you use the wrong tense in Japanese language, you cause misunderstanding. The last thing you want to have in a conversation with a Japanese person. So, if grammar in some complex language like Japanese can get in the way, can prevent you from having a polite conversation, then you should know this. Even you just want to have a basic conversation. That's very tricky. In Japanese language, they also have the past tense for adjective. So people ask you, hey, were you happy yesterday at my party? And you say, I am happy. And they will be very annoyed and angry. You have to say, I was happy, but you use the past tense of the adjective. Because the present tense of adjective happy is tanoshi. But you have to say, tanoshikatta. The past tense of adjective. Okay, so if grammar does prevent you from having an appropriate conversation with the native speaker of the language, then you have to learn grammar. It's important. Grammar, it does matter, okay, when it comes to complex languages. And when it comes to writing, okay, most of the time, I guess, grammars can be just, that you just can skip the grammars when you first, acquire the language. For, purposes other than, doing something really serious, like getting a master's degree, for example, or for languages where, we have, like grammar can involve something like honorific speech, okay? Now you say, you talk to the CEO of a very giant group, okay, like Sony, and you talk to him and you say, you say something like, okay, normally in Japanese language when you say, I saw this, which means, yes, that's right. But you talk to, the CEO I just mentioned, right? You can say, I saw this. You can say, I sayonara gozaimasu. Very long sentence. And this kind of language is considered grammatical structure, and technically speaking, it is called honorific speech. So for some languages, okay, first of all, grammar can prevent you from grammar misuse of grammar structure, okay, or maybe your lack of grammatical knowledge may cause misunderstanding, then absolutely you need to learn grammar. Then secondly, you want to do a degree, you want to get advanced proficiency in the language, then you need to learn grammar. And last but not least, okay, for some languages that's use honorific speech as a part of the grammar, okay, part of the language arts. I mean that grammar is honorific speech. Then you absolutely need to learn grammar as well. And I can mention German language as well. In some languages like French language, you have to learn genders, about genders too. Chấm trung, chấm đực, chấm cái, okay? So if you use the wrong word, people will be very upset, okay? And most, in French grammar, you have to learn about the gender. Okay, so number 3, easy. Okay, I need you to present. So because Hans did pretty well, and now I need Bảo to summarize. And about, do you think grammar is important when learning a language, a foreign language?
Generally speaking, I believe that learning languages, the period of learning languages is like building a house, and grammar is the foundation of that house. So if you have a solid foundation, you will have the opportunity and ability to develop all the skills. However, teachers shouldn't emphasize excessively on advanced grammar, because for basic learners, they just need to have the ability to talk by the languages in the conversations on a daily basis, like what foreigners do every day. For example, if you are a businessman, you have to negotiate with your partner. Then you don't need to have advanced or complex grammar structures, because they may be confused of what the information that you try to make them know or understand. So, however, with students in the